Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Coffee Chat with Lindsay and Neely.
Y'all ready for a safari? Because today is Safari Lindsay.
Safari Day.
My shirt just makes me feel like I'm on a safari or I'm ready to get going on a safari. So who's ready for
I'm in the mood
adventure
for a
and quest?
safari. Yeah. Although today here is rainy, but not super cold yet.
Yeah.
And with coffee, it's my sweater weather.
What a weather. I'm gonna guess you've got half and half decaf and regular with a splash of heavy cream.
Almost. It's all regular.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Living on the wild side today.
On safari.
Yes. There you go.
Mine is just straight up black decaf coffee.
Excellent.
I am very predictable in things.
Yeah. And you know what? It's nice to have that in our lives sometimes.
It's a constant.
Yeah.
In a world full of variables, some constants must remain.
It is so true.
You can take that one to the bank. I'm having a day. Safari Lindsay is having a day. We might just have to wear this.
Jen is here.
Staticky.
Good morning, Jen. Blaze is here. Hello, Rickwin. Hello, sunny and cooler in North Carolina. Becky is here. Good morning. And Jen says it's a gorgeous day in upstate New York, 72 and sunny. That sounds nice.
Very nice.
Yes. So anybody else who's watching, comment, let us know how you're doing and where you're at. Ron is here. Good afternoon, Lindsay and Neely and everyone. Suzanne is here.
I feel like I need a velociraptor with me because I feel like I belong in Jurassic World.
Yeah, they're probably casting for the new Jurassic World movie, so.
Of course. All right. I always wanted a velociraptor.
Yeah. I saw a, I don't know, Facebook post or something that casting calls are open for Harry Potter, Hermione, and all the Harry Potter people for the new HBO series. So if anyone wants to be a Harry Potter character, now's your chance.
The idea of acting sounds super fun on the surface, but I think I would have to be an improv actor because I honestly would not be able to stick to a script.
Yeah, that would be a
challenge. If I can't stick to a recipe, how can I stick to a script?
How is it? Yeah, I mean, a recipe is kind of just a script, isn't it?
It literally is. It's a kitchen script.
Wow, we're improv kitchen
scripters. Yeah, we're improv cooks. We're not scripted.
That would be a good YouTube channel name. The improv cook or something like that. Improv chef.
When we start our joint live stream cooking show, we need to start a live stream cooking show where you're in your kitchen and I'm in my kitchen and you're cooking one part and I'm cooking the other part, and then somehow miraculously through the magic of TV we get together to eat the food together. Like when we figure out that, we could call ourselves the improv cooks.
There you go. That's it. All right. Look for this coming soon. Or not soon.
But also, we're waiting on the technology to catch up to the idea. So
yeah. So
teleportation is not yet feasible.
Right. Oh man, wouldn't that be nice? Your screen keeps freezing, but I can still hear your words. So your words don't freeze, which is nice. So don't make any weird faces or anything because it'll freeze right on them. There you go.
Guess who's back?
Yeah. Gary says another Jurassic Park movie. I just assume there's another one in the works. I've not heard of one, but I'm just assuming because there always is of those kinds of things.
Because there's never enough of them.
Yes. Oh, awesome. Jen is an improv actor. She says, I do murder mystery dinner theater. That's fun. Lindsay, that would be a great job for you. Oh man, I would pay money to go to your murder mystery improv dinner.
As long as I kind of have just like a general understanding of who I am to be and then what the context is, I think I could just go.
Yeah, I think so. It's a gift. Lynette is saying, how do I get to your vlog? Can't figure it out. Beautiful from Texas. I'm not sure what that means exactly. Because you're here, you're watching our video from somewhere, either on my channel or Lindsay's channel. And
Yeah.
so, like, if you're looking for getting, like, more of our videos, you need to go to our YouTube channel page, which
Right.
would, if whoever you're watching, you would just click on our channel name that's under the
Which is
video.
directly below the video.
Yep.
Are you on a mobile phone or are you
Right.
on a desktop or a laptop computer? I mean, when I say mobile phone, I also mean like tablet, because that
Right.
might also affect where you see our little channel names and our faces on the little tiny pictures. But if you have a way to click on our face, that's a reasonable first attempt to try to get to the rest of our stuff.
She says leave
Speaking,
recipes. Yeah, so you'd wanna go to our channel, page, and then you'll see all of our videos, and we have lots of different playlists, and some of
maybe
them
she
are
meant blog, where your
maybe.
recipe in the descriptions of each of our videos, there's a direct link to each of our websites where we put a lot of our different recipes that tend to be printable versions, if that's what you're hunting for, Lynette. Um,
Yeah.
is that what you're searching for? If so, we can also just go
Yeah.
ahead and put up, let me silence my phone here. Put a link to each of our websites in the chat.
Yeah, and yeah, my, blog is just a recipe print off page. I don't do
Yeah.
anything fancy. Um, it basically is just a way to get, recipes. Oh, you beat me.
Was it linkable?
I'm I think so. Yeah, it's blue, so should be
Okay.
good. Okay. Let's see. Paige is here, first time commenter, first time coffee chat from East Tennessee. I follow your
Hello.
show and have been so inspired. Well, welcome. Thanks for hanging out with us. Let's see. Oh yeah, and there's Lindsay's page. And Lynette says thanks. Okay, so that must be what it was, that blog. Yes. Okay.
See, we
Yay.
can get there. We can get there.
Sing It is catching up times 2. I didn't mean to put that one up. All right. So let's see. I don't know. Restream does not tell me how many people are watching anymore. Like, that used to be a thing.
Presently, it is showing me. But I don't know if that's privatized information or like security clearance.
So weird.
I don't know.
Anyways, they just went through a
We're
whole
at 33.
update. Okay. All right. Well, make sure you say hi
Welcome,
in
friends.
chat. Okay, I had a something to discuss today, which I
Let's
think
give
will
them
be
something
fun.
to talk about.
Exactly. So it will be a repeat of some things that we've talked about, kind of a reiteration of certain things. But I felt like it was a comment that I wanted to respond to that I got on my video from yesterday. So I posted a video of my testing my blood sugar, eating meals, what I eat in a day type video, testing my blood sugar. And one comment that I got was from Sherman Fees.
Fee.
And I'll just go ahead and read it, and then we can chat about it.
Okay.
It says, Indigo, I've noticed that in many of your videos, you use and consume a considerable amount of pre-cooked, packaged, and or powdered foods, ingredients, and supplements. Your pantry has more powdered ingredients than I ever knew existed. I know you're sponsored by some of these manufacturers, but do you ever feel like you've just traded one form of an ultra-processed diet for another in an attempt at improving overall health? I realize that you look for clean ingredients in these packaged powdered foods, but it's difficult to know how foods are altered during processing and packaging. For true optimal health, why not just simplify and stick with real whole foods?
Okay, I have a couple of initial jumping in their responses. First of all, I will say this commenter did seem to have a level of awareness and context. So I truly appreciate that. And I don't know that this person is coming at it with any kind of negative attitude. So it definitely opened up the opportunity, like the door for conversation. So I feel like
Absolutely.
this commenter did it right. I'm going to give you some thumbs up on that one.
Yeah.
Because like that allows this dialogue to actually be productive and
Yes.
move forward. So thank you, commenter. I mean, it's not on my channel, it's on Nili's, but I truly appreciate the way in which you posed your question. And yeah, I'm going to give you a gold
Yeah.
star for that one to start.
I like the grammar and the clarity and, like it was top notch. Because
Yeah.
I get, comments that maybe are trying to communicate a similar thing, but done in a very, negative or just rude kind of way. So,
Or in
and
a
I
tone
don't
that
I
you
don't
can't
typically.
decipher.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't typically respond to those, but this one was one where it's a constructive criticism, asking questions, and I'm happy to respond to that. And I did want to mention that there was a lot of comments under it, people responding, and one person was saying that the comment was kind of judgy, and the original commenter responded and said, "No imposition or judgment whatsoever from me. I
Yeah.
simply wanted to pose the question to Indigo about pre-cooked, packaged, and powdered foods likely being highly processed and whether that's a consideration for her at all. I think she's great and I like several of her recipes." So again, I think it's a great question that was asked in
Yeah.
a helpful way. And so I wanted to chat about it. I feel like there's a lot here to dive into. And I
Yeah.
thought it would just be a great topic for our chat today. So go ahead before we
Um,
dive in.
so there are a variety of different products that we both use, whether they come from the Amazon or Marigold Foods has great products. Keto Chow has great products. Perfect Keto has good products. Who
Yep.
else do we use regularly?
I use
Carnivore
Equip.
Crisps,
Yeah.
Carnivore Bar, Carnivore Snacks. Who else? Element,
Yeah.
like
Mhm.
all of these things. Like there are, it's hard to recall all of them because there's so many out there, and
Yeah.
there are so many who have such um, a genuine focus on producing quality foods to help make a keto lifestyle or a sugarless lifestyle or a healthier lifestyle, however you choose to define that, more accessible and available to those who may not have the time to cook everything from scratch. So there are tons of products out there, and I can understand the overwhelm because I can open up my pantry and say, wow, that's a lot of things.
Yeah.
But I can also open up my pantry and say, wow, I don't have all of those processed snacks like, pre-made little Debbie's or granola bars or
White
gosh,
flour.
we haven't bought them in so long. Like what are other ones to have? Fruit snacks.
Yeah.
I've got basic ingredients for most stuff. So there's a lot of powdered ingredients, baking powder, baking soda.
Mhm.
You've got like your different flours. Okay, I'm getting off topic here. I'm so sorry. But your pantry can be loaded with a lot of different things, whether you choose a standard American diet or you choose to have a low carb lifestyle or a keto lifestyle or however you choose to do it. You can have all of that to be like equal all across the board. Um, but the question ultimately is, have we traded a processed diet for a healthier processed diet? Is that
Yeah. Just
ultimately
jump
what it
from one
boils down
process
to?
diet to another. Yeah.
Okay. I'm done. I'm going to let you talk now because I feel like you have formulated responses. But like I said, improv actress, wannabe. This is my
Yeah.
audition tape.
Yeah. No, that's great. Okay. So I have a lot of different avenues of response because there's a lot in here.
Yeah.
And the first one is that I expect that this commenter doesn't know my entire life story. I expect everyone to know my entire life story, but a few people have slipped through the cracks. I'm just joking. Clearly, everyone doesn't know my life story. But for me, I started getting healthy, in my teens, and that started with the Atkins diet. And I did switch from a processed food, standard American diet to a processed food, low carb diet with
Hmm.
real food in there, of course. But I, went out and bought every low carb product I could find, which thankfully there wasn't a ton of them at that point. They were all horrible. Like it was, it was like not good stuff. But I went out and bought all the process. I mean, I remember buying Atkins pancake mix and all the granola bars and anything like Subway had a Atkins menu back then. Like, and I would go and get the Atkins, whatever it was. So anyways, I definitely did that at that point, and that was when I was 19, 20 years
Mhm.
old. After that, I moved into the paleo world, Whole30,
Which
GAPS
is not
diet.
processed.
Exactly. GAPS diet,
Oh,
Weston A.
gaps.
Price. I did the GAPS diet, and if anyone, has experience with that, everything is homemade. You're eating a lot of broths and stews, and it's very
The fermenting liquid off of the cabbage.
right. Okay, and this is another avenue that we can talk about. It's very processed because fermenting cabbage is processing it.
Oh, yeah.
Cooking a stew is processing it. So we can talk about that whole like distinction of processed versus processed.
Right.
But as far as like homemade whole foods, that's what I ate for a significant amount of time. I did a very strict AIP Whole30, which is even more strict than the basic Whole30. It's like the autoimmune paleo version. I did that for half of my pregnancy with my middle daughter. And I I mean, there was probably a 10-year period where I was convinced that my diet needed to be whole food. And it had a few different iterations. Like I tried different elimination diets, including the GAPS diet, but also others. I did multiple rounds of Whole30 and then tried to add certain things back. And Whole30, if you're not familiar with it, is it's whole food, but they also don't even allow anything that looks like processed food. So you can't just make a cookie out of bananas and nut flour, even though bananas and nuts are okay on the program. You can't make something out of them that looks like you can't make a pizza crust out of almond flour or anything like that. You have to just eat the whole food in their basic whole forms.
So you had to
So,
eat all the shells on those eggs. Just pop it in your mouth.
yep, yep.
It was an egg truffle.
Go find the cow, take a bite out of it in the field if you want some beef. Not really. So it was a very strict version of a whole foods diet.
Yeah.
So when she asked, and I assume it's a she, the commenter, when she asked, did you just trade a ultra processed food diet for another ultra processed food diet? My answer to that is no. I actually traded a less processed food diet for a more processed food diet currently. I will say my health is better now on the diet that I currently have than it was back when I was really severely limiting my diet to whole foods. So, like I said, I've done AIP Whole30, I've done Weston A. Price, I've done GAPS diet, I've done multiple other variations of whole food diets. I've also done strictly 3 months of very strict carnivore with no sweeteners, no egg. That was before I ever did any kind of egg white bread. I had no egg powders whatsoever. No, sweetened electrolytes, nothing like that. It was only meat. And I did still have coffee. So maybe we can blame all of my problems on that. But I had a
Coffee
very
could hear
strict,
you. Don't hurt its feelings.
sorry. Uh, I had a very strict whole foods carnivore diet. Then after that, I had probably about 3 years of very close to carnivore. And that was mainly because, it was because I was really on board with the idea of carnivore, thinking that that was the ideal diet. And that was what I could handle. My gut health was at a place such that I could not handle a lot of plant foods. I couldn't handle nuts hardly at all. I couldn't handle salads and veggies. It was very, very minimal. I couldn't even handle like keto chow because it had xanthan gum in it. Xanthan gum gave me terrible, like doubled over in pain issues. And that's all while that's after being carnivore for 3 months strictly. So the people that say just go carnivore for 90 days and it'll heal your SIBO or dysbiosis or this or that. Maybe it does for some people. It did not do that for me. So I, super strict carnivore, really close to carnivore for, 2 to 3 years at least. That it was within that 2 to 3 years that I added in like the egg white powder and stuff. But I could add that in and not have the digestive issues that I had with other, plant products and stuff. So anyways, I had a pretty unprocessed diet throughout probably 15 to 20 years, maybe, so let's say 10 to 15 years in there. If just eating whole foods were to, was the thing that would get me optimal health, because that was at the end of the comment, why not simplify and stick to real whole foods for true optimal health? If sticking to simple whole foods brought me to optimal health, I would still be doing it.
That is such a good point.
The reality of the situation was that it did not. And so, I understand that maybe this commenter found their optimal health through whole, simple foods, and that's fantastic. Or perhaps they're listening to, if they haven't found their optimal health yet, maybe they're just listening to other people that say you will find your optimal health if you just stick to simple whole foods, a whole food diet. And they could be regurgitating that information. For me, I have lived at least 10 years eating an unprocessed whole foods diet. And so I have my own personal experience with my own personal body to draw on. And if that had been, and I banked on that being the thing. Like I could have written this comment at different points in my life saying, looking at people eating processed foods and saying, if you would just eat the whole foods, like I totally bought into that idea. But then I lived it long enough that I realized that it wasn't the thing that would fix me. And I had to, have a come to Jesus moment and say, I have this whole list of health problems that have gotten worse over these 10 years of doing this thing that was supposed to make me better. What's going on? Like I had to go back to the drawing board. And I've done that multiple times through my health journey. And the most recent one is with adding some carbs in, like I've done with Jonathan Shane. I had certain health issues that weren't resolving and were getting worse. And so I had to, reevaluate, is as low carb as possible really the best thing for me? I thought it was. I would have, said that. I would have said, I know carnivore is the optimal diet. I just add a little carbs, for variety, but I do know that zero carb is the best. I would have said that. But then once you live long enough and have enough experience, you get to the point where sometimes those beliefs just you can't stay. So as far as what my diet is now, well, first of all, I came to the realization that diet alone isn't the magic bullet for everything. And so no matter how good or strict or however you define it, no matter how far you go with your diet, there are things that it may not be able to fix. And depending on who you are, depending on your own personal issues that you're dealing with, it could be the only thing that you need to get to optimal health. But for me, it wasn't. And going stricter and stricter and more unprocessed and more, carnivore, that actually um, I continued to get worse. I'm not going to say it contributed to me getting worse, but I continued to get worse even though I was perfect or more perfect with my diet consistently.
It may or may not have contributed to you getting worse, but it certainly did not help improve things to the
Exactly.
point where there was noticeable difference.
Exactly. I continued to decline in my health. I didn't just stagnate, I declined in my health. And so I realized that my diet, like there was only so much I could do with my diet and I'd already done it. And so I actually got a lot of freedom with just saying my diet's fine. Let me focus on some other things. And for me, one huge thing was gut health. Going through the SIBO protocol that I did transformed my health. Like I looking back on it, like I've done so many different things over the years to try to get to optimal health. And addressing my SIBO and gut health has been in the
Huge.
top 3, if not the top 1. Um,
Yeah.
Transformative to the point where my diet, can include a huge variety of things without detriment to me. Um, so now I feel like since I have my bases covered with nutrients, with macronutrients and micronutrients, as long as I'm getting enough protein, getting enough healthy fat, getting enough carbs, and my micronutrients are covered with both whole foods and supplements, because, no matter how much you get from whole foods, when the soils are depleted and the water is depleted, it may not be enough. So as long as I have my bases covered with my micronutrients and my macronutrients, I find there's a lot of room for fun food. And for me, that doesn't mean Krispy Kreme donuts and
Right.
McDonald's drive-throughs. That's no longer fun food to me. For me, the fun food is the flavored whey protein powders from Marigold
Oh, yeah.
Foods and the Equip powders and having a keto chow, and all of these healthy fun foods. Now, I recognize that if I based my diet 100% on those things,
Yeah.
that would probably not be great long term. And even the makers of those products tell you that. But I have my bases covered with my nutrients and my macronutrients and my micronutrients. And you can do that uh, with a small amount of food such that there's room for other things. That's
Definitely.
that's where I'm at right now. And I will say that I think the joy that some of these foods bring is more beneficial to my health than it
Hmm.
would be cutting them out and making my diet more simple.
Yeah.
I no longer see food as just
Function only.
nutri nutrient fuel that, is either good or bad. I
Yeah.
see the joy that I get from it, just, the pleasure of tasting it, the joy that I get from creating a recipe, the joy that I get from sharing a meal with family and friends that taste delicious. I see that as very directly affecting my health in a way that just perfecting the nutrition of my diet doesn't
Absolutely.
alone. Yeah,
Absolutely. Hey, I feel like that was really, really good stuff. And I know that there's probably more that you want to share, but I thought we might get to a couple of these comments
for sure.
real quick. So Gary says that he does a lot of cooking, but if he can find an easy button, he will.
Yes. Yes.
And I feel like that's very valid. Very valid.
Oh,
If you've got a busy lifestyle or your bandwidth in your you know in your life is just such where it's like whatever I can do to simplify by not having to do one extra thing, there is a season for that for sure.
absolutely.
Rick Wynn says she thinks Neely chooses to make things that use the powders, like the egg white bread and protein powders and various foods for the family. Lots of ingredients that are powders. And that's the thing of it. Like, if you were to bake cinnamon rolls for your family from scratch. You're going to be pulling powders out of that pantry too.
That's true.
I mean, I store yeast in the freezer, not in the pantry, but you know what I'm saying? Like, you're going to find a
Yes.
lot of granulated or powdered
Yes.
items that can really start to clutter up your counter whenever you're doing those kinds of things.
Yes. And I will say about the whole multiple powders thing, I know, like, that's the main products that are made for the health community because the other
Right.
products are fruits and vegetables and meat and eggs and cheese. And it's like, there's not big, like, companies being like, okay, we're going to bring something new to the market. Cucumbers. So let's get all the influencers free cucumbers so they can talk about cucumbers. That's just not how it works. So, and everyone knows that. Like, everyone in the keto community knows all those basics. So, I don't do a taste test of, you know,
Cucumbers.
cucumber. So when I do a taste test, it's going to be a keto product or a health food product, and that's just what they are. Um, and also because there's all the taste tests and influencers getting sent stuff, so showing things and tasting things, I think it make gives the impression that those things make up a huge majority of the diet, which is not actually true. And actually, looking at that video that this comment was actually on, I had 3 meals that day, and in the first meal, I had some of my homemade yogurt that I made. I processed it myself, so it was processed
You
food.
did not make that milk that turned into half and half. You did
That's
not
true.
milk yourself.
I did not. I admit it. But
None of those goats are nannying right now.
so so I, into my homemade yogurt, I mixed in some Marigold whey protein powder. For my lunch, I had sweet potatoes with vegetables and a just meats entree. So that's packaged, but it was seasoned and cooked meat.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the dinner, it was chickpea pasta, which that's processed. And I was actually real curious about if that would spike my blood sugar more than just beans in general. I actually had an amazing blood sugar response, but the ingredients were very simple. It was just the chickpea flour and I think yellow pea flour or something and water, and that's it. So yeah, it's processed, but it's still pretty simple ingredients. It had homemade sun-dried tomato pesto on it, and then there was a sausage, again, processed. It was a cooked, chicken black pepper parmesan sausage from Costco, and then some cottage cheese, again,
Process.
processed. So, it w we could say there was still a lot of processed food in my diet, but the only powder, aside from electrolytes, I guess, was the Marigold whey powder.
Yeah.
It was pretty minimal in that video, and maybe they're referring to other videos they've seen. There are days where I have more powdered foods than others. Like
Sure.
I have a keto chow shake, and then I have a yogurt with a protein powder or this or that. But for the most part, like that day was very minimal on the powders, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I think there is it can be seen as you're just and I get this about the egg white bread where people think, "Oh, you're gonna get a sensitivity to egg whites because you eat so much egg white bread." And I'm like, "I haven't eaten egg white bread for like 3 weeks." Like, I don't I don't eat it 3 meals a day. Like, you just think
Right.
I do because I put out videos when I test out recipes, and it's just not accurate, I guess. It gives the wrong impression.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So here we have Jen back saying that she can't have food right now. So she's grateful for products like Keto Chow or pretty much any other powdered product you could probably
Yeah.
turn into something soft enough to consume. Because I want to say she had something medically happen recently to where she just can't chew food. So it's one of
Gosh.
those things where it goes back to the whole thing of like there's a proper season for proper things, right?
Yeah.
And there's a reason why you use a sledgehammer and there's a reason why you use a finishing hammer.
Yeah.
So there's purposes and they serve those purposes and it doesn't have to always and forever be everything. Like the egg white powder. I feel like our bodies naturally give us signals like, oh, I'm not interested in that anymore. And so
Oh,
then
yeah.
it's like there is a limit. The limit does exist.
Yeah.
So at some point you're like, I'm getting a little sick of this. I'm gonna ease off of this, or I'm not. I'm I'm content with where I'm at with that thing. So I'm just gonna switch foci. That's
Yeah.
the plural of focus.
But that same turn off switch does not exist, it seems, with white flour,
Sugar.
like wheat flour
Yeah.
and sugar. Yeah. And so when we talk about ultra processed food, typically those are made up of white flour, white enriched flour, some kind of sugar, including high fructose corn syrup, and then some kind of
Hmm.
industrial seed oil, like those
Yeah.
three things. And so when you look at like the health effect of ultra processed food, it looks really bad because it is. But typically, I think it's those ingredients that are the culprits that are skewing the data. If they took ultra processed keto chow and egg white powder, and I don't know, MCT oil powder or something, and they did the same diagnostic test or, testing of those on people, I don't think the health outcomes would be the same. So it's not that ultra processing in and of itself is the thing that causes health detriment. There are multiple factors. Now, I'm not saying that I know 100% that these ultra processed healthier foods have no drawbacks. I can't say that clearly. And like the commenter said, we don't know how this ultra processing changes the product. I agree. There are things that we don't know. And for me, and this is where it's always a personal opinion, judgment call for yourself, where you decide what you're comfortable with. And I've come to the realization from long time ago that I will never get to perfect. I can never get to any kind of diet that has no unknowns or nothing that could possibly be a problem. I actually had this conversation with someone on Instagram recently. They were asking about one of the supplements that I used in my Super SIBO yogurt. It's got 3 different strains. And so I purchased 3 different supplements that Dr. Davis recommended. And they were saying that one of them had, I think, dextrose and titanium dioxide as an ingredient in this probiotic supplement. And they were like, do you know of any other supplement that doesn't have that? And basically my response was no, I've never looked for another one. And I'm not super worried about it in that small amount. Like it's only in the capsule. And then once you put the capsule in the yogurt, it makes, this much yogurt. And then every time you make another batch of yogurt, you're using
It disperses further.
it,
Yeah.
like it's such a small amount that I'm not worried about it. And they said that they were like, that's not that, like they've drawn the line with no titanium dioxide ingredient because XYZ. And that's totally fine. Like
Yeah.
they're convinced that that's something that they want to avoid. And for me, I'm not going to sit here and say, no, it's good for you. It's fine. Nothing bad will happen to you if you consume it. I can't say that. I don't know. I don't know if something bad will happen to me from having that bit of titanium dioxide in my yogurt. But for me, it's an acceptable risk. For that person, it's not.
What if it just makes you bulletproof from the inside out?
I mean, it could. Yeah, like think about all the bad that could happen. Equally good could happen.
I mean,
I
you could
mean, we
be
could
turning
become
into a superhero
superheroes.
from your super gut, your super SIBO yogurt. It's all
Exactly.
super.
I mean, it says super in it, so that's what I expect.
It sure should. All right, Sing It says that she has done Whole30 separate times, not understanding that the next logical step was not the standard American diet, but instead was
Oh.
keto or perhaps somewhere along those lines. So she gained back all of her weight,
Hmm.
and that included many medical issues. Ketovore for her. And I
Yeah.
think that is something to take into consideration as well, is whenever you go on some sort of very restrictive way of eating, for a set period of time, knowing your exit strategy
Yeah.
is imperative. It's kind of like an egg fast. You go into an egg fast thinking, yes, I'm going to simplify my brain, I'm going to simplify my choices, and I'm going to simplify this water weight by eliminating it. And then it's like, what do you do on the back end? Because then it's like, oh, I'm so sick of eggs. I am so ready to have like some ground beef and a taco bowl with all the tomatoes and lettuces. And oh, I'm so excited for that keto treat that I haven't eaten for 3 days. You're going to do some reverse situations there, and it's not going to be fun. And then you're going to feel like, oh well, all I have to do now is just constantly go back and forth between the cycle of this thing to that thing, this thing to that thing.
Yeah.
And then that really does a
cycle.
number on your emotional status as well.
Yeah. That cycle is really not fun.
It's brutal.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Hey,
I
Jonathan.
just wanted to say that we've got a few more people who popped in. We've got Jonathan Shine. And Lynette is. Oh wait, we already said hi to Lynette. I'm so sorry, Lynette.
Well, we said hi to
Karen. I was trying
Lynette
to click
also.
on.
So hi, both.
No,
Lynette.
there's Karen. There she is.
There she is. Hi, Karen.
I knew I could get there. I knew I could. This is why I'm not the clicky person on the regular thing.
You're doing fantastic. Let me put this up real quick.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, okay, sorry. Hi, Crystal.
Hi, Crystal.
Chris Bear says titanium dioxide is essentially powdered white paint. Yeah, it's to make the thing white. It's non-reactive. It's about the same as accidentally getting a few grains of sand in your mouth while breathing at the beach. Interesting. So the person I was chatting with said that it rewrites your DNA. I don't know where that information comes from. It alters your DNA.
Okay.
So she was real concerned about it, which I don't know. I have not, researched it. So I can't say that it's not writing my DNA right as we speak. So,
well, thank you, Chris Bear. We appreciate your nerd moment, because now we know that inhaling titanium oxide just means that we're whitewashing our guts and not actually turning into superheroes. So maybe it's a backwards thing or a backhanded thing.
Maybe it's rewriting our DNA to be superheroes.
Okay, I'm in for that. I really am.
I mean, rewriting our DNA is not so bad as long as it rewrites it in a good way.
Right. Absolutely. 100%.
So again, I can't say for sure that nothing bad is happening to anybody's body when they consume titanium dioxide. I can't say that. I also can't say that it is. Like, bad things are happening. And I have to say, am I okay with it? Sure. In that tiny amount spread out over multiple batches of yogurt, I'm fine with it. Now, if it was in something that I was consuming every day in a really high amount, I'd probably do a little more research and, decide then if I was okay with it or not. But in that tiny bit, it's not a concern to me. Yeah, but we've all got to make that decision for ourselves.
Hello, exchange student. She is receiving her giveaway package today from me. I am so excited for you to get to open that up. I have been doing I've been trying to do more giveaways on my channel just because I do want to spread the love of what I do have. If you do not appreciate powdered products, then I would encourage you not to enter any of the giveaways, just as a side note, because I'm typically shipping things that are shelf stable and not going to spoil.
Could you please do a giveaway of cucumbers?
What if they're
tomatoes, eggplants, grass-fed beef?
What if I just sent a potato in the mail? What would happen?
Oh, let's do healthy giveaways.
Earlier, Christy said that she was here because school was having to be out for some environmental issues. So that's a bummer, but also we're glad that you're here. And that means also Ellie is here from Nourishment Redacted. Hello, hello. What else am I missing here? So exchange student says, my intention is to make a recipe, but then I just cooked some burger and add some salt and decide I don't care anymore. Listen, that is a great place to be too.
Yeah. Honestly, I fantasize about a time when the kids are out of the house and I can just sign up for a meal service and not cook. I'm just that sounds so nice. And so, like, talking about prepared foods, because that was another thing in the comments or in the original comment we're responding to, it's powdered foods, but then also packaged foods.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I I do a lot of stuff from scratch as it is. The idea of doing everything from scratch for everyone forever, it's kind of exhausting. And it's like, I get that there are great things about making stuff from scratch. And that's why I do it a lot. But there are also other people that do it that you can pay to
And it's
have.
their gifting.
And then you have time for other things, which is
Right.
oh so wonderful. Because you look at you read Little House on the Prairie or something like that, where their whole lives, like there wouldn't have been an opportunity for a wife to have a job outside the home back in the day. Like that it just wouldn't even be feasible because of so much work that had to go into having enough food to make it through the year.
Or having clothes to wear because your kid
And
outgrew their clothes.
yeah, making your own clothes, all of it.
Those
And
clothing
it's like,
pieces are very highly processed.
that's true. That is true. We need to go get some leaves.
No, you're processing things. I can't with
Oh,
it.
well, if the leaf falls off the tree itself, is that okay?
We'll take it under advisement.
Yeah. So anyways, it's like, and some people are super passionate about doing everything from scratch and living, that old-fashioned life.
Yeah.
And that's amazing. That's like their hobby. But there are a lot of other hobbies that people can have these days, and we get to choose. And
That is
so,
the beauty of modern
you know,
technology at the
it's
moment.
like, yeah. And if that's your passion, then that's great. And I think it's awesome. And I will buy homemade soap from you and the fresh milk that you get from your cows. Like there's ways to make trades here and have benefits for all without everyone having to do all of the things. And so the convenience and the time that I get from being able to just make a keto chow shake for a meal, I take that time. I try to not take that time just scrolling on my phone, which obviously that's easy to do. But I try to take that time that I get from having a keto chow shake or having a just meats entree and I go exercise or, I go work on something else, like make a video for everybody. That's what
Yeah,
I've
I,
done.
I think that whole concept of like buying back your time, like that's
Mm,
huge. And not everybody wants to, like, that's the reason why we have specialization in our society and in our culture. Like, one person is good at one thing, another person is good at another, and now we can all live and have a more comfortable life, a little bit more of a freedom in our time. I think the
yes.
time thing is really huge, really, really huge. Um, let's see here. Oh, here's a good question, and also a hello. Hi, Michelle.
Hello,
I got to
Michelle.
meet Michelle at Keto Palooza last year, and she's
Oh,
asking if
excellent.
we're going to be at KPL this year. Unfortunately for
Uh,
me, it's a no.
yeah, same here. It's just not feasible to get there from Portland. It's
Yeah,
it's just
the
not easy.
distance for me is not the issue. It's just other things that were already on the schedule that take precedence.
Precedence?
Yeah,
Precedent?
we have
Precedent.
a different priority
There.
for that particular time. And that works, or that, I'm sorry, I read another word that just totally like derailed my brain. That is not going to work out for us this year. I had tremendous hope that there wouldn't be something on the schedule back in like the beginning of summertime, and I was like so excited, especially after we got back from our big road trip, that oh, maybe I can make it work with our, with October being so far away. And
And now
yeah,
it's just a few weeks.
yeah,
Oh,
no. Um, and then, so back to the titanium oxide, where we're becoming superheroes from the inside out. Chris is still reading about the titanium oxide is bad study shows a dose of 0.5 gram per kilogram That's 34 grams of powdered white paint for a 130-pound person. So how many kilos is that? What, like 63 kilos?
So
I'd
don't
estimate.
eat 2 to 3 tablespoons of titanium oxide.
That feels right. That feels right.
I'll try to remember that, because
You
it's
also
so
wanted to add.
just keep on it going with that titanium oxide.
Well, I mean, just grab a scoop like you did your colostrum. Just knock
There
it
you
back.
go, yeah. Yeah, it's my supplement, my titanium. I'm still hoping to become a superhero, okay? How else is it supposed to happen?
I have not been bit by a radioactive spider or a goose or anything. I tried to get bit by a radioactive horse today, but it didn't work.
I mean, Titanium Woman would be a great superhero. So
And then
how else am I supposed to get there?
If I could use as transport a velociraptor with a saddle,
ooh,
I feel like I'd have my life set.
Velociraptor girl.
It'll be great. It'll be great.
Keto Chow, enabling lazy people the time they need to exercise and do other important stuff. That's 2016. I like it. I mean,
that should literally be your tagline. I love it. It's brilliant. Okay. Speaking of exercise right there was another question that Blaze popped up a smidge ahead of that back at, we were like 20 minutes into the conversation. Let me see if I can find it. I wrote it down because I knew I didn't want to forget it. Here we go. So, enabling people time to exercise. She wants to know, how is the rebounder trampoline working out going? I love this question very much, but I also know we only have about 8 minutes left on today. So I'm going to actually ask that we make that our topic for this coming week.
Yeah.
And we can kind of give like a full on update, since that's kind of like what we started off talking about back, almost 2 years ago.
I don't even remember that.
So, Blaze, I know you're always here. So if you are willing to wait for a response to that question by 1 week,
we can do a whole exercise update. Yeah.
Okay, so now that we've gotten through a lot of that, were there other thoughts that you had? I mean, you said a lot of really amazing things, like just eating whole foods. If just eating whole foods brought us to health, why would we have ever deviated or moved back toward prepackaged foods of some sort, whether it's a powder that you create another food or ingredients that you turn into some processed version of something. So that's a solid point. And then diet alone is not the fix-all for everything. And I think that making the sort of like differentiation, if we're going to use the term processed food, this is kind of a thought that I had. If we call it industrialized food versus home food, or sort of like home processed foods, right? So like you making your SIBO yogurt, that is a home process, not an industrialized process. So I think having more clear terms might also help people to more rightly define and categorize a lot of these things that we eat on, whether it's a frequent basis or a semi-frequent basis or a rare basis. Say basis 3 more times.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, I just paid my butcher so much money to process a cow for me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and imagine how much work that is to take a living cow and turn it into packaged up packages of meat in my freezer. Like, that is so much processing. And then I will process it further when I take it and cook it. Anyways, but also I wanted to mention, I could construct a whole foods diet that would give me really bad health outcomes. I mean, imagine if I constructed a whole food diet of
oatmeal and dates.
Oatmeal, dates, figs, combined with butter, beef fat, not enough protein. I could gain a ton of weight on a whole food.
You're going to need some pecans and almonds in there for some crunch.
I can't have cheese because that's processed.
Sure is.
But I could drink the cream off the top of the raw milk along with my bowl full of dates.
Dates are the worst. I can't with dates. If I have one, it's over. We're having the whole container.
Yeah. And we could add some peanut butter. I mean, or just peanuts because the butter is pretty processed once you grind it up.
But
I
you
mean,
might as well get them
you're
in
gonna
the
be grinding it up
shell.
with your teeth anyway, so I don't know. It's hard
But
to say. All that to
yeah.
say, I could construct a diet that would get me very bad health very quickly that is 100% whole foods. I personally do not subscribe to the if like the more whole unprocessed you get, the healthier outcome you get blanket statement.
Mm-hmm.
I think constructing a diet and well, I'll just say I construct my diet in a different way. Like I have different priorities than it must be whole and unprocessed. I understand the value of whole and unprocessed in certain ways, but I also understand the value of other things that I use to decide what I eat and what I don't eat. So for me, I find that I feel best when I have a higher percentage, or not percentage, but a higher number of grams of protein in my diet than fat grams on a
Yeah.
regular basis. Not there's an off day here and there. But on a regular basis, I feel better when I have more protein grams per day than fat grams per day. There are like a lot of protein comes with fat, like whole food protein, ground beef, lots of fat, steaks, lots of fat. So for me,
Burrata.
including something like a whey protein powder with my ultra processed Greek yogurt, it makes sense because it's bumping up that protein without added fat. Where I mean, besides egg whites, which once you separate the egg white and the egg yolk, is that processing?
Technically, yes.
I guess so. So, anyways, like I'm constructing my diet in a way that makes me feel my best. And the defining thing that I look at is not if it's a whole unprocessed food or not. That's
And I
not
think that
that's
is
not the religion that I subscribe to.
ascribed to. Mm-hmm. And I think that is ultimately a place where we all have to eventually either find ourselves or find that we're okay with, is that sometimes the dogma of being stuck in one specific camp because that's the only way,
Yeah.
or that's the way for perfection. It's just not gonna. It's not gonna yield anybody any positive results. And there's a lot of literature out there about how like the stress of whatever it is you're trying to do actually impedes everything too. So like if you're stressing out about the fact that like, okay, there is an infinitesimal amount of titanium oxide in this one capsule of probiotic strain that I'm using to then create an entire 4 cup volume or however much, volume of yogurt that I then eat a half cup of. And then it turns around and becomes another 4 cups and then another, and another and another. And now we're like 6 generations down the line.
Yeah.
Like the amount of stress that you sense from that, like, or feel from that, the burden you bear is way horrible for us. Your cortisol is probably all kinds of screwy. And then all of a sudden you're like, well, I'm not losing weight, but I'm also not eating titanium dioxide or titanium oxide.
I don't know if
Therefore,
there's a difference. I mean, there's probably a difference, but I don't remember which one she actually said because I said dioxide and then Chris Bear said oxide. And so I don't know if there's one or two oxides at this
we don't
point.
know, but
Maybe the
you get all the
dioxide
way
is
down.
worse for you.
Yeah, you get all the way down there. And then eventually you're eating 2 to 3 tablespoons of powdered white paint.
Yep.
And you're like, well, I
Haven't
guess
we all been there?
here we are. Thank you, Chris Bear, for comedic relief. Well, I do feel like this particular topic is one of those where everybody has to figure out where they are on the spectrum, right? Like anything that has to do with health, there's a spectrum of appropriateness because I know we've talked about this in the past, but like your individual DNA code happens to not line up identically with my DNA code, and your circumstances are vastly different from my circumstances and environment. Like live with the Oregon air and I live with the Ohio air, and those are different.
It's true.
And so it's like, even if we were identical, it would still be different. And
Yeah.
saying like this one person is going to be the end all be all as far as what we must follow. That's an
Yes.
that's a level that I'm not willing to strive for.
Yes.
I'm definitely in the camp of I'm going to do what I can for me and not push myself to the point of hospitalizing myself because I'm so stressed.
Yeah. And so in my own journey, I have learned that diet isn't as important as I have previously made it out to
Believed.
be, or, tried to implement for myself. And that, I mean, that took a lot to get there, but
Yeah.
I just see when I have other things in my life in line, I don't have to be so insane about my diet. I just don't. And that's my own personal journey. Okay. Oh,
Just so we know.
dioxide. Okay.
It is 2 oxides.
2 oxides. Excellent. Um, like I operated for a long time with the idea that, I mean, and I wouldn't have said these words, but I operated with the assumption that diet is everything. If I can just perfect my diet, it will perfect everything about my life. I do not believe that anymore. And I'm finding that when I have things in order in my life in lots of different realms, that the diet becomes less and less important. And there's more room for freedom than I ever anticipated and was aware of.
Well, and to that point, like you did use some form of diet, some form of consumption to help get you to this place through the
Yes.
SIBO protocols that you followed. But
Yes.
once you were there, it opened up the door. It's kind of like whenever you're watching Willy Wonka and he's coming up to the little door and then the hallway gets narrower and narrower and narrower. And then you stop right there and then he just upon it off. And then you walk in and all of a sudden it's this vast place where you're like, there's literally everything I can eat. Oh my word, this is incredible. And it's like, you have to follow the narrow hallway to the door before you can walk through it and get to experience that kind of just expansiveness. So
Yeah. And so for me, I didn't go from a place of extreme restriction straight to variety.
pure freedom. Yeah.
No, that would have been very painful.
Unabashed.
Like I'm not saying that the antidote for restriction is just to let yourself loose. We've all, been there. That doesn't end well.
No.
It's like there were other things that I had to work on before I got to the restriction. Because when I talk about eating carbs now, people are like, "Oh, I could," as if I'm trying to say, everyone on keto, just go start eating carbs. That wasn't the path that I took. I didn't go straight from keto and all of these health issues to eating carbs. There was a long journey in between where I worked on my gut to a point where it didn't destroy me to eat carbs.
Yeah.
And it was like, I got to the point where I was like, oh, I can eat carbs. It wasn't like, oh, I need to eat carbs, and then I made it happen. It was like, I worked on my health and got to the point where I was like surprised by, wow, I can eat this. I didn't see that coming,
But anyway. It wasn't even a dumpster fire. It was a good I didn't see that coming.
Yeah. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes like the surprise, I didn't see it coming, can be good things.
Yeah.
Yay.
100%. Okay. If y'all have any further things that you would like to share regarding this topic, we would love to hear your thoughts down in our comment sections down below, whether you're on Nili's channel or if you're on my channel, does not matter. Share your experiences with these kinds of things, the ultra processed, like industrialized processed versus like home processing. Are we just trading our processed standard American diet for another processed diet that is slowly becoming a common thing amongst America. I don't know. Eventually, the keto diet may be the standard American diet. But let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. And we will be back here, same time, same place,
Yep.
1 week from now. And
Yep.
we'll be talking about working out. So that
Exercise.
we can give you some updates on how we feel about that, because we're not just pretty faces.
Yeah, we're strong, powerful women.